Hey, what's going on, everybody? Justin here, and in this video I want to go over some books that I think are going to be worthy of 5 out of 5 stars after I finish reading them, and the genre and topic in this video, just because I do read like a bunch of different kinds of books between science and history and philosophy and fantasy and stuff. We're going to be doing history books, but particularly on the era of classical history, so predominantly Greece, Rome, but also sort of the Hellenistic era in general, and pretty much the whole periphery of that sort of time and place of the Mediterranean world as a whole. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do, and I got 6 books here that I think, based on a bunch of different things, I'm hoping are going to be worthy of 5 out of 5 stars. So yeah, let's just get right into it. And the first one is going to be a NetGalley book that I think I've added to my TBR once or twice before, and I just haven't got to it. But it's Barry Strauss's 10 Caesars. And I actually read 2 other works by this author. And one, his Trojan War, I didn't think was super spectacular. Actually, it's kind of eh. And I was kind of questioned some of his methodology of the whole concept of the work and stuff. But he did write another one, let's see, The Death of Caesar, which I almost gave 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was just a really, really good sort of work, just sort of on the last couple days of Caesar's life, and then sort of the turmoil following it. I did highly enjoy that book. I think I gave that one 4 out of 5, or 4.5 out of 5 stars. Excuse me. But this one, 10 Caesars, I've seen like a bunch of the history people and channels and websites and stuff that I follow on Twitter and stuff. I've seen 10 Caesars like retweeted like probably like 20 times at this point, with just tons of gushing praise and stuff. And obviously with 10 Caesars, it's dealing with I believe from the synopsis, it's like kind of like 10 mini biographies or something like that of the first half of the Roman Empire. So, and since it's also Rome, and The Death of Caesar was like obviously a Roman work as well, maybe like I just enjoy his Roman books maybe a little bit better, maybe. But yeah, from all the advanced praise from a bunch of other outlets that I know is trustworthy, I'm really hoping that 10 Caesars is going to be a 5 out of 5 star read from Barry Strauss, and it's going to be more in the vein of the style that I enjoy from him, rather than the stuff that I don't like. Alright, so let's go on to another one that I don't actually physically own, but I have the audiobook, I think from like an Audible sale, is The Storm Before the Storm by Mike Duncan, and the subtitle is, I think, the beginning of the end of the Roman Republic. And this is obviously, with subtitles such as that, the last sort of generation of the Roman Republic, which is a fascinating time period in history. And I've read a book on Cicero, a book on Cato, a book on Mithridates, The Death of Caesar, all kind of taking place in that generation or two during the fall of the Republic. It's just a time period I really, really enjoy, and sort of because of that, I think it's just almost easier for it to become like a 5 out of 5 star work, just because of that. Apologize from the distraction from the peanut galley over here making faces at me and stuff. But anyways, what book was I talking about? Let's see, I talked about 10. Oh yeah, The Storm Before the Storm, and also Mike. Anyways, Mike Duncan is a pretty famous podcaster, probably most famous for his History of Rome podcast. I have listened to some of it before, several years ago when I don't listen to podcasts so much anymore. But there was a time where I listened to mostly podcasts and like no audiobooks. So I thought that was kind of interesting, as people keep trying to distract me in the background here. And you can probably hear Daisy's feet clicking and all that stuff. But anyways, like I said, it's just a fascinating time period. I've heard good things about it. I've seen a couple other booktubers review it, most notably Justin at Ghost Reader, like in the video. And that was a good job, Daisy, not knocking the ring light over, because I thought for sure she was going to. But anyways, The Storm Before the Storm, I'm hoping it's going to be 5 out of 5 stars, just because I really enjoyed his podcast style. I don't know how well it's going to translate into his writing style, but I have high hopes for that. So let's go on to another one. And this is going to be sort of one that's a little bit on the periphery, like I was saying. And it's The Celts by Nora Chadwick. Part of it, I'm just going with my gut instinct because it's a Fellow Society book. As you can just see how just like awesome this book is. Just reading a Fellow Society book just like automatically bumps it up like a 1.5 on the rating system, almost in a way. Like it could be a terrible book and it's just like still a halfway decent read just because it's like a Fellow Society edition. I have heard of Nora Chadwick a little bit, but she's not necessarily like someone I think of when I just hear like Celtic history authors. There's a couple, but the ones that I know more of are Ellis and Cunliffe. But I have heard of Chadwick from one other person. I have a good friend, Wyatt, who also reads history book, and he read another work by Nora Chadwick and said it was really good. So I'm hoping this one is also going to be really good. I definitely trust his judgment, and it's dealing with the entire history of the Celts, and actually with an introductory chapter by Barry Cunliffe right there. So if he writes the introductory chapter, he would be like kind of the one I would think of for sort of Celtic history. So yeah, definitely I have high hopes for this one as well. But this is dealing with both Hallstatt culture and Latin culture, which is the entire spectrum of Celtic history. So I think that's going to be really cool once I get around to it. And like I said, these Fellow Society books, they're just high quality. It's got the cool sprayed, like kind of orange edges, the slipcase, plates and everything. Just hoping that's just going to be a really fun, pleasurable read type of thing going on with that one. Alright, so let's go on to another one here. We have a topic that I haven't read much since I started book 2, but I used to be, and I'm still really interested, but I used to be fairly obsessed with the Punic Wars. But we have Scipio Africanus, Greater Than Napoleon by B.H. Littlehart. He was an older, several generations ago. I think this book is written in like the 1920s, but it's actually one of the only biographies of Scipio Africanus in the English language. So that's really cool. It might be a little dated. I think that's always kind of fun to read, like from a historiographical kind of viewpoint, to see like how different concepts and viewpoints have changed over the past almost century, I guess, since this one was written. Obviously, this is a reprint from just a couple years ago. Michael Grant gave it high praise, who used to be a very prominent, popular classical historian as well. But anyways, like I said, I was like obsessed with the Punic Wars. I got, let's see, just literally on the Punic Wars or figures in the Punic Wars. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 10 or 11 books that you could consider basically just Punic War history books, which if you guys don't know, when Hannibal crosses the Alps with his elephants, that is the Second Punic War. Obviously, that's the most famous from all the 3 Punic Wars and everything. But Scipio Africanus is eventually the Roman general who finally defeats Hannibal at the Battle of Zama to end the Second Punic War. But he's just one of my favorite Romans of all time. He fought in so many different theaters, fought in Spain, fought in Africa, fought in Asia Minor, many different theaters, many different campaigns, several different enemies, and he is one of the only Roman generals to have never lost a battle, like at all. At least no major battle. Anyways, so I think that's just really cool. But yeah, I've just always been fascinated with Hannibal, with Scipio, Marcellus, that whole like crew, I guess you could say. But yeah, I haven't read this one. I'm not sure how long ago I've bought it. I can't remember, like maybe a year or 2 ago. But yeah, it's gonna be kind of exciting to read it, even just from like a historiographical viewpoint, just seeing, like I said, sort of the change in ideas of how the Punic Wars were like fought and won and stuff over the past like 100 years, sort of how scholarship and like kind of the different trends basically in Roman history have been going. So yeah, there's that one. For a Greek book, I'm going with Donald Kagan's Thucydides. In the subtitles, The Reinvention of History. Even though Herodotus is considered the father of history, he's also known as the father of lies. He's actually the father of a lot of different like kind of ancillary, auxiliary subjects as well. But Thucydides, who wrote History of the Peloponnesian War, is definitely just generally considered the more rigorous historian between the two. And even though they're about a generation or half a generation apart, in writing the first like legit histories in the West. But anyways, Donald Kagan is like the preeminent Peloponnesian War scholar. He has a magnum opus work, a 4-volume set of the Peloponnesian Wars. Oh, they're on my bottom shelf way down here. I'm missing the 4th edition, like the fall of the Athenian Empire, but there's the outbreak of the Peloponnesian War, the Archidamian War, the peace of Nicias, and the Sicilian expedition, and then there's the fall of the Athenian Empire. But anyways, he's also has like I believe he has a condensed work of the 4, kind of like as like a popular history as well. But anyways, I have not an unholy amount. There's really only, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess I have 5 books on Thucydides, which seems like a little bit like overkill. Not the Peloponnesian War, just Thucydides, like, and like how you should like go about reading him and stuff. Because there's no way you actually have this much biographical material. Like, you might have enough for like 1 chapter, let alone a whole book. So obviously, when you have a book with Thucydides, it's more dealing with how he wrote the Peloponnesian War and why it's important in his like kind of analysis and writing style, and like looking into things like causation and like the real underlying reasons for events happening and stuff. But eventually I want to do a deep dive into the Peloponnesian War between Athens and Sparta, and I have several books sort of lined up for that. But this will probably be, since Donald Kagan is sort of the gold standard for Peloponnesian studies, I'll probably start with this one. I have, like I said, 4 others kind of basically on Thucydides. But I'm going to start with this one, and I'm just hoping, since I've read part of one of Kagan's other works, super academic but very good. So I'm hoping he can kind of translate into just sort of a regular popular history with Thucydides. But when I do a deep dive of the Peloponnesian War, this is where I'm going to start. I'm hoping it starts off really good with a 5-star read. Alright, and lastly, one that I think will be really fun is another kind of classic, is The Ancient Explorers by M. Carey and E.M.H. Warmington. Or E.H. Warmington, I don't know if it's E.M.H. And this is a Pelican book. Don't know if everyone has seen these before. Everyone's probably seen like kind of the Penguin classics, you know. Like I have some older Penguin classics here. But the Penguin also had during like I think it was like the 50s and 60s, also had like another imprint known as the Pelican books, which started off as these like really blue, like the shade of blue, so you could always like kind of like see them. And these were all like not necessarily history, but like nonfiction works on like particular topics. Like I have like one on like ancient like Crete and stuff, and like the ancient city or ancient education, stuff like that. So it's all kind of like real, not esoteric, but just very specific history, like kind of monographs. But anyways, I don't know much about the author, Carey, the author. I know he wrote like a bunch of works on I think Greece in particular. However, E.H. Warmington is a very famous Carthaginian scholar. He wrote several works on the city-state of Carthage and the Carthaginian Empire, which is really cool. And I'm not sure, he might also, I don't know if he has a biography of Hannibal or not. Yeah, I might be thinking of Lancel. But anyways, I have read some of Warmington's stuff. But anyways, onto this book, The Ancient Explorers. Well, I think I'm going to give it 5 out of 5 stars. It's ancient history, ancient classical history by 2, good historians. But I really love sort of the adventure explorer, travelogue type books. Like I've read, you know what I mean, when people are going off to like kind of maybe not necessarily new territory, but they're like exploring, forests and jungles or mountains and stuff that humans just haven't recorded much history in. Stuff like that. When you're like looking for new species, like new flora and fauna of a different area, I just think stuff like that, it's just really cool. A lot of sort of the journalism nature books that I read are kind of in that vein. And I think this sort of mixes all that stuff together into like a classical history work, because we deal with a lot of people don't realize how extensive some of the travels and explorations of some of these classical cultures were. For example, I read The Extraordinary Voyage of Pytheas the Greek, the Greek from the city-state of Marseille today, but the Greek city-state of Massalia, going up essentially into the Arctic Circle, and like Norway and Iceland and Britain and stuff. Sort of his travels. I bet you he has a chapter in here. There's going to be a chapter or two on Himilco's sort of not circumnavigation of Africa, but he did traverse much of the African coast, obviously with Carthage being sort of at on the northern coast of Africa, in the middle of the kind of like the Mediterranean Sea, traversing all the way down to Cape Good Hope is like kind of a pretty big deal. I would consider it in the like 5th century BC. But yeah, it's all kinds of cool stuff, different adventures that I'm probably unaware of. I do know there was a Carthaginian expedition also like up the Congo River, which is pretty insane as well if you think about it, from the perspective of the classical era, everything like that. It just sounds like something that's going to be really cool for me. There was trading networks between Rome and India, for example. I'm hoping stuff like that might be in here a little bit. But I'm hoping that just fits the bill for sort of my adventure, traveler, ancient history mishmash, I guess. But like I said, it's written by at least one scholar that I know is really credible and can write good history. So I'm not sure how I don't know if they did like a chapter and then switched chapters or on and off or whatever, because that might be kind of weird. But anyways, I'm hoping that ends up being a 5 out of 5 star read as well. Just looks really cool, really interesting, and I'm hoping it pans out. So there you guys have it. Those are 6 classical era history books that I'm really excited for, that I'm hoping after I finish them are going to be 5-star reads. Tell me what you guys think about any of them, or if you've read any of the authors or any of these books in particular. Leave some comments down below about them. Just tell me what book you're most excited for reading that you think is going to end up being a 5-star prediction before you finish it. Tell me just like, yeah, some of those works down in the comments down below as well. Always enjoy getting recommendations from you guys, particularly if it's nonfiction, or especially bonus points if it's history related with your 5-star prediction. But yeah, just tell me what you guys think, and always remember, whatever you end up reading, read victoriously.